podcast. I'm your host Jack, located here in sunny South Korea, Busan. Today is the 22nd of March. It is a Monday, and this is a pre-recorded session, a podcast. It's not a live one. Unfortunately, things are not going very well for YouTube. It seems YouTube is refusing to cooperate with anything I do in terms of on the Live in Korea channel, in terms of updating my videos, as well as going live today. That didn't happen, but here we are on a pre-recorded session. Nonetheless, the Live in Korea podcast is a podcast that's been going on for about a year and a half right now here from South Korea, and I talk about anything and everything related to living and working in South Korea. It's been a ride. It's been a heck of a ride over the past 2.5 years, or 1.5 years rather. But I'm still kicking and struggling and making ends meet in terms of reporting or just being here on the podcast. As you can see, things are upgraded. I've purchased a computer, which is fantastic, and I was so psyched to have a fantastically smoothly running podcast this week. But unfortunately, for some reason, YouTube is not. And I've tried another computer as well, and that's not working as well. So hopefully, I messaged YouTube, and hopefully things will get resolved soon. But for the time being, it is a pre-recorded session, so there is no chat set for us to listen to live chat. But I will be answering any questions that you may be having that you're going to be posted. There is a bunch of stuff today. Bunch of things that we're going to be talking about. There's a lot of news going on in Korea, and I've been digging around deep into the Google algorithm and trying to find stuff that isn't like the first search results on Google. And there are some interesting things that popped up. Let me go over here quickly. This is going to be a very quick podcast, man. GCR, Global Construction Review reports that apparently Busan is gearing up to start building an international airport at Busan. This is from March 21st. A bill paving the way for the construction of an international airport in Busan, South Korea's second city, was approved by its National Assembly on Friday. Passed by blah blah blah, doesn't matter who. And it's supposed to go on Gadok Island, and also expedites the pre-construction process by removing legal rules requiring the carrying out of feasibility studies. No problemo. We bypass that stuff. Who needs that? Who needs to find out? I assume feasibility studies are a leg of research that determines whether it's feasible or whether it's possible to establish, to start digging in the ground that's meant for the construction. But I guess we're bypassing that. So the aim is to have the airport in operation before 2030. The decision follows a decade-long debate on expanding airport infrastructure in the southeast of the Korean peninsula and relieving the pressure on Gimhae, the region's only international airport, which has been operating at or above its passenger capacity. That is interesting. I think this may be something for real estate investors. If you're interested in that, keep an eye on that, because that could be a thing. For real estate increases in prices here. Initial plans to expand Gimhae, drawn up under the Park Geun-hye administration, were abandoned by President Moon Jae-in government following an unfavorable feasibility review. This led to a proposal to fast-track a new build airport, expedite the project with a goal to put the airport into operation before 2030. So that's going to be a fast-tracked indeed. It added that the total cost would be almost $25 billion US. That's a small fraction of the cryptocurrency market. I'm sure they can do it. No problemo. No problemo. Next, Korea business, March 22nd, which is today. LG Electronics highly likely to close smartphone production. Man, LG is going out of business. Sakaduno. I don't care personally. Personally, I don't care. But if you're an investor in LG Electronics, man, expect the stock to take a dive on that one. LG Electronics has reportedly decided to close its smartphone production plans and pull out of smartphone business, as it could not find buyers for its smartphone-related assets. I think last month or a while back, I think I reported an article that was posted in either I don't know, one of the plethora of outlets, media outlets, about LG trying to sell on the quick go, on the quick, its smartphones, like brand new flagship smartphones were being sold at half price. And I guess I assume that they're still going to be, LG is still going to be, providing whatever they provide, but they just won't be producing any more phones. So if you do have, if you did go in on the new smart LG smartphones, then you may have to look into, I don't know, changing plans. I don't know. You probably don't need to do that. You don't need to change plans. You can still be registered with KT whether you're using LG or Samsung, right? But I'm sure that the companies themselves probably have like preferred service providers anyway that you register with once you get the thingy-majiggies. LG Electronics smartphone business has a global market share of around 1%. It is difficult to find a buyer who is willing to pay a high price for a company which is such a small global market share, said an industry insider. Attention is focusing on how LG Electronics will revamp itself after pulling out of the smartphone business. The company has thus far been unable to withdraw from the smartphone business, although cumulative losses from it amounted to 5 trillion won. That's a lot of money. 5 trillion won, I think, is like $5 billion or something like that. Okay, so there you go. That's on the smartphone end here for LG. Bitcoin Business Korea also reports. This is also from today. Gap narrowing between virtual assets and established financial systems. Bitcoin cryptocurrency. If you haven't been following the cryptocurrency market, it's been going haywire. Some people more than others. You know who you are, who I'm talking about. So what do we got here? Korea Investment and Securities said in its report on March 18th that established financial systems are increasingly considering embracing virtual assets, with the trading of such assets increasing worldwide and Bitcoin becoming more and more likely to act as the center of the ecosystem of such assets. Now there is always a question whether Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrency will become the center of this ecosystem. But it seems like Bitcoin is the first cryptocurrency that was ever mined, and it may remain king. It's there are other cryptocurrencies that have a higher market cap and valuation than Bitcoin, but yet Bitcoin remains the king. Right now, I think it stands at like 56,000 US per Bitcoin, which is astronomical considering 59 considering that it was just last year around March, right after the corona outbreak, it was at 4,000 US dollars, and so there you go. But more and more, like the recent cryptocurrency rush has been fueled by institutional investments, and a lot of the YouTubers that are deeply entrenched in the cryptocurrency environment basically point out to the fact that the retail investors are actually not the driving force behind the present market, the cryptocurrency market, but rather it's the institutional investment that is driving the prices up, and the cryptocurrency market presently stands at about 1.9 or 1.8 trillion dollars, which is huge compared to what it used to be, what it was in 2017. It's still relatively small, but it I don't know the exact details, but it is, compared to other companies, it's quite big. But it is a conglomeration of like a bunch of other companies, so I don't know if it's fair to compare the cryptocurrency market to things like Amazon or whatever. If the trading I have to stop my computer from clickety-clicking. If the trading of virtual assets was mainly for speculative purposes 3 years ago, that of last year was mainly for decentralization and ecosystem creation, it pointed out, adding that what is in the background is the US-China hegemony rivalry in the digital currency sector. According to the report, China introduced a central bank digital currency, CBDC, ahead of the United States, and the U.S. Office of the Competitive Controller, compter of the currency, allowed banks in January this year to issue stable coins and process their settlement via blockchain networks. In South Korea, the revised Act on Reporting Use of Certain Financial Transaction Information for Similar Purposes is scheduled to become effective on March 25th. The OCC's recent announcement related to stablecoins means that the first legal basis has been established for blockchain to be regarded as a monetary base of the United States, and blockchain has begun to enter banks' own area. So we've pretty much entered worldwide adoption of cryptocurrencies, or at least the blockchain, which is essentially the same thing. And so if banks are jumping on board, man, that's some serious business, yo. Yeah. The OCC's decision is to defend the hegemony of the US dollar and further increase its influence, with China challenging it with the digital yuan. The US dollar at the stable coin will be equally pegged, and this means stable coin issuance by the US bank constitutes digital US dollar circulation to increase its influence. Anyway, okay, we're not going to read, yeah. So that's what's happening. That's what's happening in cryptocurrency environmentals. Okay, quick switch. Because the title was of the podcast was PR tests. There's a question of some I remember seeing on Facebook groups is people asking what was required upon entry to South Korea. Whether tests were required, and here's your answer. This is press release from January, updated this month on the 12th. Frequently asked questions about negative pre-departure PCR tests requirement for incoming travelers. PCR tests are the COVID tests, if you're not aware. Who is required to provide proof of pre-departure negative COVID-19 test results? All travelers arriving in the Republic of Korea from another country are required to submit proof of negative PCR test results issued prior to departure, effective January 8th for airport arrivals and January 15th for seaport arrivals. So anybody coming into South Korea must provide a negative COVID test that was taken, I assume that it was taken in the country from which they depart, and without any stopovers in the middle, like longer than a certain period of time. Does this test result document need to be in Korean? Yes, apparently so. The document must be written in Korean or English. Okay, so not only Korean or English, or both. Korean or English, it says. So documents issued in languages other than Korean or English need to be submitted along with certified Korean or English translation, and a document certifying or notarizing the translation. There you go. Which COVID-19 tests are accepted? The test must be a real-time reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction, holy moly, RT-PCR test, which is a test detecting viral nucleic acid in the test sample. Does the test need to be issued? When? The test result needs to be issued within 72 hours of the date of departure. So no longer than, what is that, 24, 48, like 3 days? Yeah, no longer than 3 days prior to departure. For example, if your flight departs on January 10th, the test must be issued on or after January 7th. My itinerary includes one or more connecting flights. Where does my test result need to be issued? That is, if I depart from country A, stop in country B, and arrive in Korea, should I be tested in country A, B, or both? Your test must be issued in the country that you last entered before arriving in Korea. Really? For example, if you transfer to your connecting flight without entering country B, your test result needs to be issued in country A. If you entered country B before arriving in Korea, your test result needs to be issued in country B. Yeah, so I guess, what does that mean? Like if your stopover is in the airport and you're not leaving the airport, that's okay? I guess that's, you're not entering the country. Hopefully that's what it means. If my itinerary includes connection through Korea, but my final destination is another country, do I need to submit a negative test result to Korea? Good question. The document is required if you enter Korea before leaving for your final destination. You will not be required to submit this document to Korean officials if you do not enter Korea while in transit. So being at the airport is being in transit, and that does not constitute as entering South Korea. There's a lot of information here. I'm going to copy and paste this link below the video. Here I am thinking I'm going to post it in the chat section. We're not live. This is a pre-recorded session. But if you are watching this, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and come back for more. Tomorrow I think I'm going to be uploading another video on the Korea 101 session, Korea 101 mini-series, so come back. Test results issued online or received by email. What happens if I arrive in Korea without a negative test result document? Foreign nationals who arrive without a negative test result will be denied entry. This is common practice in most countries that have this requirement. Korean nationals who arrive without a negative test result may be allowed entry. In this case, they will be required to undergo 2-week quarantine at a facility and will be charged for the use of the facility 1.68 million per person. Quite a hefty sum for a 2-week vacation inside your own country. Proof of negative PCR test results to be required for all incoming travelers during the press release. Okay, so yeah, same but different. All right, let's see here. Let me just see here quickly before we move on. I think this is U.S. flags human rights concerns. Okay. Yeah, interesting. So somebody finally decided that what was happening, that where is it? Oh yeah, the Korea Times. Orders for all foreign workers to take COVID-19 tests are discriminatory. Somebody finally decided to acknowledge the fact that that's discriminatory. Wow, congratulations. Took him a little while. The nation's human rights watchdog has concluded that some local governments' administrative orders for all foreign workers to undergo COVID-19 testing constitute discrimination against foreigners. What do you mean some local governments administrative orders? The National Human Rights Commission of Korea said Monday that it recommended the local governments and the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters to establish and implement non-discriminatory quarantine policies. Of course that's what they said, because I mean, wow. The recommendation comes after orders made by the Seoul Metropolitan Government and the Gyeonggi Provincial Government earlier this month received a strong backlash from foreign residents here. The unprecedented COVID-19 situation has greatly changed perceptions of value of equality in our society. We realize that anyone can be subject to hatred and discrimination, so it is best for our community that no one is excluded from the society's system to protect human rights. Right, okay. After the fact. This like usually this happens when people fuck up and then they try to backtrack and they start apologizing. Like this happens time and again, and the media or the governments are no exceptions. Like you see this on YouTube with goofy YouTubers who like say something stupid and then they go back and have to apologize for the stuff they said. And the government does the same thing. There you go. Okay. Moving on. What else is in the news? Let's see here. We got Bitcoin. We covered Bitcoin. Yes, we did. We covered LG. That's gone. Proof of necessity. Human rights. Yes. Aha. Okay. Vaccines. Vaccines, again, never stop. Yeah, okay. So, Korea to expand AstraZeneca vaccinations despite side effects. So, apparently, there was a kid in his 20s. Earlier, the case of blood clot AstraZeneca vaccinations in a man in his 20s was diagnosed as a cerebrovenous sinus thrombosis, or blood clots in the brain. I'm laughing at the name. Such an extravagant, cerebrovenous, why don't you just call it blood clots, which has been flagged by the European Medicines Agency as a possible side effect. So the European Medicines Agency refused to administer AstraZeneca in Europe. They refused to give him license, I guess, for sale because of the possibility of this particular side effect. And yet Korea allowed it, and apparently there's a man in his 20s. And I guess Korea is of the mind that, we can take some for the team. Take it for the team. Oopsies. But health officials Park Young-jun, who is tasked with monitoring the side effects, said Saturday MRI results revealed suspicions of CVST. We are reviewing any possible link to the vaccine. I think I mentioned in a previous podcast that Korean government, I think, said that in case of death or any complications resulting from vaccines, administering of vaccines, the COVID vaccines, the government will reimburse people or pay people somewhere in the vicinity of 300 something odd thousand US dollars, if that were the case. But of course, it's never as simple as that. There is monitoring. There are reviews and investigations and whatnot, because that is not money that's easily given away, right? And there's always statements made in the way of claiming that the death or resulting complications stem from pre-existing conditions rather than from the vaccines themselves. So there you go. And so Korea says AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine is safe. Allies blood clot worries. Korea Public Health Authorities said Monday that AstraZeneca vaccination should go on in the country, echoing rulings from regulators elsewhere that the benefits outweigh the risks. So the risks are that some people might die, but overall it's good for us all. Yeah. I don't know. Let's not compare it to the actual situation, because I'll get my head chopped off. In a news briefing of the Korean Disease Control and Prevention Agency said that it continues to recommend to use the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine, especially considering the immediate threats of the pandemic. Korean Public Health Authorities said Monday that AstraZeneca vaccination should go on in the country, echoing ruling from regulators elsewhere that the benefits outweigh the risk of side effects. Still, it admitted that the vaccines linked to rare blood clotting in the brain, along with lower levels of cannot be excluded, largely reiterating the European Union regulators' review released Friday. And there you have it. That's it. That's that. That's what happens. Oh, there is one more piece of news. Oh yeah. August IPO likely for Kakao Pay despite my data hiccups. So apparently Kakao Pay, I don't know if any of you guys knew, I didn't know. 43.9% of Kakao Pay is owned by Alipay. I had no idea. I had no bloody idea that this was the case. Alipay owns 43.9% of Kakao Pay, while Kakao holds the other for 56.1%. And the reason why the IPO didn't go through is because some people were concerned with, Alipay is a massive Chinese company. So, concerns are that, I don't know, that data may be snatched and taken away, and who knows what's happening. But we're all under watch anyway. We're all on a constant watch. We're all constantly being watched and supervised and overwatched, and we're all okay with it because it's Corona time, and there are things that need to be sacrificed for the benefit of our privacy. Forget privacy, all that stuff. In face of the worst things that could happen to us, we're willing to give away our freedoms, and we're willing to give away our securities to the powers that be, and we're okay with it until we're of course not okay with it. Right. And that's it for today's episode. That's it for today's upload. Thank you for joining in. If you're new here and you're watching this recording, after uploading. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, like button, and hit the bell button for recording notifications. Come back tomorrow, I think, or sometime this week, for another episode of the 101 Korea video mini series that's going to be uploaded to the channel. In the meantime, have a good evening, have a good night, have a fantastic rest of the week, and I'll see you next weekend, or rather next Monday, hopefully in a better shape and life. Good night, bye bye.